video we are going to discuss the compounds of hydrogen. Okay, yes, what are the compounds of hydrogen that we are going to discuss? Yes, under this we will discuss hydrides. Okay, after hydrides we will discuss about water. Water is also one of the compound of hydrogen. Yes, in this water mainly we discuss hardness of water. What is hard water, soft water based upon hardness. Okay, and after the water we will discuss H2O2, hydrogen peroxide. Okay, so these are the three compounds where we discuss under the compounds of hydrogen. Okay, let us discuss the first one, hydrides. Yes, how we can define hydrides? So hydrides are nothing but the binary compounds. What do you mean by the binary compounds? The compounds which are made by the two elements. Okay, the binary compounds of hydrogen with any other element, except noble gases. Why? Because noble gases anyhow they won't make any compound with any other element. So that is why except noble elements. Okay, the binary compounds of hydrogen with any other elements we call them as what? Hydrides. This is a simple definition for hydrides. Hydrides are nothing but the binary compounds of hydrogen with any element. So for example, you take NaH. This is one hydride. Okay, beryllium hydride, BeH2. It is also beryllium and hydrogen. Okay, next NH3. Even this is also one hydride. Next one SiH4. This is also one hydride. And H2O. This is also one hydride. PH3. This is also one hydride. Next lithium hydride. This is also one hydride. This is like this. It is a binary compounds. Hydrides are binary compounds made by the hydrogen. In that two elements, one element is hydrogen, other element can be anyone except noble gases. That hydride, those binary compounds we call it as what? Hydrides. Okay. Now in this hydrides, hydrogen exists as H minus ion. Okay, so now these hydrides, based upon the nature and the type of the nature of these compounds, we are classifying these hydrides into three categories. Okay, so under the classification, hydrides we are classifying into three types. What are those? The first one is ionic hydrides. These ionic hydrides also we call it as what? Salt-like hydrides or saline hydrides. These are the other names for this ionic hydride. First one is ionic hydrides. Ionic hydrides also we call it as salt-like hydrides, also called saline hydrides. Next one, covalent hydrides. Second one is what? Covalent hydrides. This is also we call it as molecular hydrides. Next one, interstitial hydrides. And these interstitial hydrides also we call it as non-stoichiometric hydrides. So these are the three types of hydrides based upon the nature of these hydrides. Okay, let us discuss these three one by one. Okay, first one, ionic hydrides. In the name itself it is there. What is the nature of these hydrides? These are ionic in nature. So that is why we are calling these hydrides as what? Ionic hydrides, also called salt-like or saline hydrides. Then which elements forms ionic hydrides? The ionic hydrides are formed by S block elements now. Okay, so these hydrides are formed by which elements? S block element. Most of the S block elements, not all S block, most of the S block elements. So in S block elements, what are the elements comes under? That is 1A group and 2A group. Yes, in the 1A group we know that lithium, sodium, potassium, rubidium, cesium, and anyhow francium is a radioactive element. Next, another second A group element, beryllium, magnesium, calcium, strontium, barium, and radium. Radium is a radioactive element. So these are the elements which forms what? Ionic hydrides. In that, beryllium, magnesium, and lithium. Except these three elements, remaining all elements forms ionic hydrides. I told you that is why most of the S block, not all S block elements. Ionic hydrides are formed by most of the S block elements. Okay, in the S block elements, what are the elements cannot form ionic hydrides? Lithium, beryllium, and magnesium. These three elements, shows covalent character. Okay, these hydrides are showing which character? Covalent character. There was a reason. So, what is the reason why beryllium and magnesium hydrides are covalent, not an ionic? Because both beryllium hydride and magnesium hydride, these two hydrides exist as polymers, polymeric nature. Okay, because of exist as a polymeric behavior, because of showing the polymeric nature, okay, these hydrides are showing what? Covalent character instead of ionic character. Okay, so on the lithium, because of having high lattice enthalpy, it is showing covalent character. So this is what, except these three elements, remaining all S block elements are forming ionic hydrides. Okay, next one. Usually these ionic hydrides, they are bad conductors. They are bad conductors, electrical conductors in solid state. Okay, in solid state they are bad conductors, but in molten states they act as an good conductors. Okay, so usually these ionic hydrides are they are what? Crystalline solids having high melting point and boiling point. Okay, these are crystalline solids having high melting and boiling points, and they are usually soluble in water. And one more thing, the stability of these hydrides, decreases down the group. The stability of these hydrides decreases down the group. So how? That is, lithium hydride is greater than sodium hydride, potassium hydride, rubidium hydride, cesium hydride. What is the reason? Because of increase in the sizes, the bond length increases. Bond strength decreases. So the stability decreases. So this is the stability order of these hydrides in a particular group. Okay, so this is about the ionic hydrides. And what is the importance of these ionic hydrides? These ionic hydrides, okay, they act as what? Strong reducing agents. Okay, and also by using these ionic hydrides, we can prepare most important reducing agent, that is what? Lithium aluminum hydride, sodium borohydride. Those hydrides also can prepare by using these ionic hydrides. Okay, this is about the first type of hydrides. Next, let us move to the second category of hydride. That is what? Molecular hydrides. Also we call it as what? Covalent hydrides. Covalent hydrides. Yes, in the name itself it was there. What is the nature of them? These are covalent nature. These hydrides are covalent in nature. Covalent in nature. Okay, and when you compare this And which elements forms as covalent hydrates? These hydrates are formed by most of p block elements. Most of the p block elements means which group elements? Exactly, they are formed by 13th group to 17th group elements. These are formed by 13th group to 17th group elements. Means boron family, carbon family, nitrogen family, oxygen family, halogen family. So these 5 groups of elements forms this molecular or covalent hydrates. Okay, and as we know, 18th group means noble gases. They will not form any compound with any other element. That is why, except 18th group, most of the p block elements forms what? Molecular hydrates. And coming to the properties of this. Okay, generally they are soft in nature. These hydrates are soft in nature. So because of soft in nature, they are having low melting and boiling points. So these melting boiling points are less, and they are soluble in organic solvents. What is the nature? Reason because what is the nature of them? Covalent nature. The species which is having covalent nature, they are usually soluble in organic solvents. Okay, so they are soluble in organic solvents and insoluble in polar solvents like water. Okay, next one. And these covalent hydrates, we are further classifying into 3 types. Covalent hydrates we are further classifying into 3 types. What are those? In that the first one is electron precise hydrates. Next one, electron deficient hydrates. And the third one, electron rich hydrates. Electron precise, electron deficient, electron rich. In the name itself, electron precise means these hydrates having exactly the same number of electrons required for the drawing of Lewis structures. Okay, for example, for drawing Lewis structure, they need 8 electrons, and those electrons are exactly present in these hydrates. Okay, if the hydrates are having exactly the same number of electrons that they require to draw the Lewis structures, then those hydrates we call it as what? Electron precise hydrates. Then which group elements forms electron precise hydrates? All 14th group elements forms electron precise hydrates. 14th group elements, 14th carbon, silicon, germanium, tin, lead. Okay, next electron deficient hydrates. In the name itself it is there. Electron deficient means these hydrates are having lesser number of electron than required number of electrons. Okay, that is why they are acting as what? They are electron deficient, and they act as what? They act as Lewis acids. Electron deficient hydrates act as what? Lewis acids. What are Lewis acids? The species which accept the electron pairs, we call it as Lewis acids. That is why electron deficient hydrates act as Lewis acid. Which group elements act as electron deficient? That is all 13th group elements forms this electron deficient hydrates. Next one, electron rich hydrates. They have excess electrons than required electrons. Okay, so those hydrates we call it as electron rich hydrates, and they, because of having excess electrons, they act as what? Lewis bases. They act as a Lewis bases, and the groups which are from 15th to 17th group, all these elements, okay, 15th to 16th to 17th, these 3 group of elements forms which type of hydrates? Electron rich hydrates. Okay, so this is about the types of covalent hydrates. Okay, so this is the characteristics of the covalent hydrates, and these are the elements which are forming the covalent hydrates. So this is about the covalent hydrates. Next, third category, third type of hydrates, that is what? Interstitial hydrates. Interstitial hydrates. And these are also we call it as what? Non-stoichiometric hydrates. Non-stoichiometric hydrates. Why we are calling them as a non-stoichiometric hydrates? Why? Because these hydrates do not obey the law of constant proportion. Okay, law of constant proportion. According to the law of constant proportion, the composition of the elements should be remains the same always. Okay, but here these hydrides will not maintain the same composition throughout. Okay, if you change the temperature or if you change any external conditions, automatically their composition also will change. Okay, that is why they are not maintaining a particular stoichiometry. That is why we are calling them as what? Non-stoichiometric hydrides. Then which group elements are forming these type of hydrides? That is most of D and F block elements. Okay, most of D and F block elements forms this interstitial hydrides. Okay, in this D block also, D and F block elements also, exactly that is 6th group, 7th group and 8th group. Okay, these 7th group, 8th group, 9th group, according to the common system. 7th to 8th to 9th. 7th to 8th to 9th means manganese family, iron family, cobalt family. So these three groups, they do not form hydrides. These three group of elements, they do not form hydrides, and this gap we call it as what? Hydride gap. Hydride gap. Okay, they may ask you, hydride gap is due to the, because of which groups? 7th group, 8th group, 9th group. Okay, now even in 6th group also, only one element only will form hydride. That is what in 6th group, only chromium alone forms hydrides. The remaining members of the 6th group also will not form. Only chromium alone will form the hydrides. And this 6th to 7th to 8th to 9th, except chromium, 6th to 7th to 8th to 9th, these four group members will not form any type of hydrides, and this is called what? Hydride gap. Okay, next, these interstitial hydrides. Okay, so they will not maintain the same stoichiometry throughout the time, and when you compare the properties, okay, the melting and boiling points, the melting point and the boiling point of these hydrides are less than their parent metals. Okay, than their parent metals. For example, metal, it is having, let us consider its melting point is minus 150 degrees, let us consider. Okay, then its hydride will be, that is 0.98. Okay, it's interstitial hydride, it should have lesser melting point. Lesser melting point means minus 140 degrees Celsius. Okay, so like that, the melting and boiling points of these hydrides are always be less than their parent metals. Okay, so this is about the interstitial hydrides. Once again, hydrides are nothing but the binary compounds of hydrogen with any other elements called what? Hydrides. And based upon the nature of the hydrides, we are classifying the hydrides into three categories. One is ionic hydrides, next covalent hydrides, third one is interstitial hydrides. Ionic hydrides are formed by the most of the S block elements, and whereas covalent hydrides are formed by the most of the P block elements except noble gas. Whereas interstitial hydrides are formed by most of the D and F block elements. Okay. Okay. Next, let us move to the next compound of hydrogen. That is what? Water. Okay. So the chemical formula of water is H2O, as we know, and its molecular weight is 18 grams, and its volumetric composition. Volumetric composition. What is the volumetric composition? It is made by the hydrogen and oxygen. Okay, so its composition is what? 2:1 volumetric ratio. 2:1. Whereas its gravimetric composition ratio. Gravimetric, that is 2:16, that is 1:8. Gravimetric ratio means their mass ratios we should take, and a volumetric ratio means we need to take their volumes. Okay, so this is a next one. H2O and D2. What is H2O? It's nothing but water. D2O means it is nothing but heavy water. Heavy water. So why we are calling it heavy water? Why? Because so here deuterated oxygen means it is somewhat heavier than water. So if you take the molecular weight of water, this is 18, whereas this is what? 20. Okay, so 20 is greater than 18, that is it is slightly heavier than water. That is why we are calling this is what? Heavy water. Okay, and when you compare this water with heavy water, most of the physical properties are higher for heavy water than water, but except three properties. What are those? The surface tension. One is surface tension. Okay, the next one is a dielectric constant. Okay, so surface tension and a dielectric constant. So these two properties are higher for water than heavy water. Okay, so remaining most of the properties, physical properties are greater for heavy water than water. Okay, so these are some variation between water and heavy water. Okay, next coming to the preparation. Okay, as we know, water, it is a natural source, so it is exist in a earth crust directly in the form of water. So there was and artificially, if you want to prepare the water, so simply we can prepare by mixing hydrogen and oxygen. We will get water, H2O. Okay, but at normal conditions it is not possible. We need to maintain high pressure and high temperature. When we maintain these conditions, okay, only we can prepare water molecules artificially. Okay, now coming to the properties of water. As we know, water is a colorless, odorless liquid. Colorless, odorless liquid, and it is acting as it is one of the universal solvent. Why we are calling water as a universal solvent? Why? Because it has the ability to dissolve most of the substances in it. What is the reason? Why? Because it can dissolve most of the substances. That is why we are calling it a universal solvent. Reason is what? What is the reason behind that? Because it has high dielectric constant. Because of having high dielectric constant, okay, it can able to dissolve maximum amount of the substances in it. That is why it is acting as what? Universal solvent. Okay, next one. Coming to the properties, it is an amphoteric nature. Amphoteric in nature. What do you mean by the amphoteric? Amphoteric means it can act as both acid and as well as base. Let us see. If you take H2O, if you pass the ammonia gas, okay, ammonia is what? Base, and in this case H2O is acting as what? Acid. What we will get? So we will get OH minus and NH3 NH4 plus. It means a proton is transferring from water to ammonia. Okay, the species which releases the H plus ions, here H2O is releasing H plus ion, that means here it is acting as an acid, and that H plus ion is accepted by ammonia, so it becoming ammonium ion. Clear? So here H2O is acting as what? Acid. Next, suppose the same H2O, if you mix to the HCl, okay, when you pass the HCl into the water, now H2O will accept the H plus and it becomes what? H3O plus Cl minus. That means here H2O is acting as what? Base, and HCl is acting as acid. So it has the ability to show both acidic behavior and as well as basic behavior. That is why water is what? Amphoteric in nature. Okay. Next, it is also having one more speciality, that is what? Autoprotalysis. Autoprotalysis. What is autoprotalysis? Autoprotalysis means, for example, if you take two water molecules, H2O plus H2O, okay, one will release the H plus ion, another one will accept the H plus ion, so that it becomes what? H3O plus OH minus. That is why in water the species are present in the form of ionic form, not in a neutral form. Okay, so this nature we call it as what? Auto means self-protalysis. Okay, one water molecule is releasing H plus ion, another water molecule is accepting. So one will act as an acid, another one is acting as a base, and this nature we call it as what? Autoprotalysis. Okay, so this is one more speciality for water molecule. Next one, because of having high degree of high dielectric constant, it has ability to it has high hydration power. Hydration capacity. That's why most of the salts exist as what? Hydrated form. Okay, for example, if you take copper sulfate, CuSO4, okay, along with the copper, this is anhydrous copper sulfate. Hydrated copper sulfate means it has how many water molecules? 5 water molecules. 5 water molecules. In that 5 water molecules, there was a speciality. Actually, this copper sulfate exact structure is Cu. So this is the exact structure of copper sulfate, means 4 water molecules. Okay, in this structure what we confirm? 4 H2O molecules bonding to the copper ions through which bonds? Day2 bonds. Because this is a complex compound. Within the complex compound, H2 is acting as a ligand. The bond between the ligand and the central metal atom is Day2 bond. So 4 water molecules are bonding with coordinate covalent bonds. Whereas the last 5th water molecule is bonding with hydrogen bond. Okay, this water molecule is bonding with hydrogen bond. So this is the speciality of copper sulfate. In copper sulfate, 4 water molecules are bonding with Day2 bonds. 1 water molecule is bonding with hydrogen bond. Okay, like this. This is because of what? Having high dielectric constant, it has high hydration capacity. So these are about some chemical properties of water. And the next one, let us discuss types of water. Based upon the hardness, okay, based upon the hardness of water, the water we are classifying into 2 types. So one is soft water and the second one is hard water. Soft water and hard water. Yes, what is a soft water and what is a hard water? Soft water means the water which gives lacquer after the addition of soap to it. Okay, for example, this is the water. To this you are adding soap solution. After the addition of soap, just imagine if you take a bucket of water, you add soap to it, and if you shake it, what we will get? We will get lacquer. Lather means foam. If you get the foam immediately, that means then that water is what? Then that is what? Soft water. Okay. After addition of soap to the water, if the water gives lather, then that water is what? Soft water. After the addition of soap, if it is not giving lather, okay, then that means this water is what? Hard water. Okay, why the hard water is not giving the lather? Why? Because the hard water, it has, due to presence of some soluble salts. Due to presence of soluble salts. What are the soluble salts which are present in hard water? Those are bicarbonates, chlorides, and sulfates of bicarbonates, chlorides, and the sulfates of calcium and magnesium. So because of the presence of these salts, means calcium bicarbonate, calcium chloride, calcium sulfate. Similarly, magnesium bicarbonate, magnesium chloride, magnesium sulfate. So because of the presence of these soluble salts in that water, okay, that water is not giving the lather even after the addition of soap to it. Then that water we call it as what? Hard water. So based upon whether it is giving the lather or not, based upon that, okay, we are differentiating into soft water and hard water. Okay, again, this hard water, okay, the hard water we further classify into two types. They are temporary hard water, temporary hardness or temporary hard water. Next one, permanent hard water. Permanent hard water. Yes, what is a temporary hard water? If the hardness of hard water is because of presence of bicarbonate salts of calcium and magnesium. So if the hardness is due to bicarbonate salts of calcium or magnesium, then that's hardness we call it as what? Temporary hardness. Why we are calling it temporary? Because if you this hardness we can easily remove simply by boiling or simply by the addition of lime. So we can easily remove this hardness one. That is why we are calling this is what? Temporary hardness. Whereas permanent hard water means if the hardness of hard water is due to presence of chlorides or sulfates of calcium or magnesium. Okay, then that hard water we call it as what? Permanent, and we cannot easily remove this permanent hardness simply by boiling. That is why we are calling this is what? Permanent hardness. Okay, so hard water is again of two types. Okay, one is a temporary hard water, the second one is permanent hard water. Temporary hard water means if the hardness is because of the presence of bicarbonate salts, then that hard water we call it as temporary hard water. If the hardness is because of the chlorides or sulfates of calcium and magnesium, then that hard water we call it as permanent hard water. Now let us discuss the methods of removing hardness of hard water. Okay, methods of removing. Methods of removing hardness. Okay, so we are using different methods for the removing temporary hardness and permanent hardness. Okay, let us discuss the first one, temporary hardness. Temporary hardness we can remove by two ways. Okay, we can remove the temporary hardness by two methods. One is boiling. Okay, the second one is Clark's method. Okay, two methods. One is by boiling, another one is Clark's method. Okay, let us discuss this first one, boiling. Yes, how can we remove the temporary hardness? By boiling. So for example, temporary hardness means a hardness because of which salt? Bicarbonate salts. So here I am taking a metal bicarbonate, HCO3 twice. Okay, so you are simply boiling. If you boil it, this is what soluble. The metal bicarbonates are soluble. When you heat it, the metal bicarbonates are converting into what? Carbonates or hydroxides. So MCO3 plus H2O plus CO2. We are metal carbonates are what? Insoluble. Simply by filter that we can remove this. So either by heating we are converting the bicarbonates into what? Insoluble carbonates. So that is why we can simply remove this hardness. Okay. So this is the first one, that is what? Boil. Next one, Clark's method. Okay, in this Clark's method, what we are doing? We are adding what? Sufficient amount of, sufficient, not excess, or calculated amount of lime to it. Lime means what? CaO, calcium oxide. If you dissolve that calcium oxide in water, we are getting calcium hydroxide. Okay, by addition of lime to the water, if you remove the hardness of hot water, then that method we call as what? Clark's method. And you remember that we should add an sufficient amount only, calculated amount only. Again, if you add the excess amount of lime water, okay, again it will increase the hardness of the water. Instead of removing the hardness, it is increasing the hardness. That is why make sure that we should add a calculated amount of lime only to the hard water. Okay, so how? Let us see. It is removing it removes the hardness. It removes the hardness by converting bicarbonates into either carbonates or hydroxides. This lime will convert this soluble bicarbonates into insoluble carbonates or hydroxides. So let us take an example. That is what? Magnesium bicarbonate I have taken. To this you are adding lime to it. After addition of lime to it, what happened? The magnesium bicarbonate came out as what? Magnesium hydroxide, and calcium hydroxide come out as calcium carbonate plus H2O plus CO2. So magnesium hydroxide is insoluble and it will be precipitated out. So like this we are converting all soluble salts into insoluble salts. Suppose if it is a calcium bicarbonate, to this calcium bicarbonate if you add lime, okay, what happened? Simple displacement, that is what? 2 moles of CaCO3, it is insoluble and it will be precipitated out. So remaining is what? H2O, and H2O only will produces. Okay, like this we are converting all insoluble salts into soluble salts. Insoluble salts into soluble salts into insoluble salts. Once it is insoluble, it is easily precipitated out and simply by filtration you can remove. So like this we are converting all soluble salts into insoluble salts either by boiling or by the Clark's method. So that these two methods were called as methods of removing temporary hardness. Okay, so let us discuss the next one, methods of removing permanent hardness. Okay, of removing permanent hardness. Permanent hardness of water. Okay, in this the first method is addition of bleaching powder. Bleaching powder, that is the first one. The second one is permitted process. This is also we call it as geolite process. Also we call it as ion exchange method. Ion exchange method. And the third one is synthetic resin method. Synthetic resin method. Okay, next and fourth one, Kalgan method. So these are the 4 methods we are going to use to remove the permanent hardness. Once again, permanent hardness because of the presence of chlorides or sulfates of calcium and magnesium. Okay, let us see the first one, washing soda. No problem. Addition of washing soda. How can we remove? So let us be taken a salt, that is MCl2, chlorides of metal, where M is equal to either calcium or magnesium. To this chloride salts, if you add washing soda, means washing soda is nothing but sodium carbonate. Okay, so what happened? So metal chlorides, they use NaCl and metal carbonates. Okay, these metal carbonates will precipitate it out. Like this, we are converting all these soluble salts into insoluble salts simply by the addition of what? Washing soda. Okay, suppose if it is a sulfate, if you take MSO4, this on reaction with Na2CO3. Okay, so the metal sulfates are converting into what? Metal carbonates plus Na2SO4. Na2SO4. Here, note an important point. In the place of Na2CO3, you can also use NaOH or Na3PO4. Also, we can use in place of Na2CO3. No need to consider always sodium carbonate. In the place of sodium carbonate, you can also use these two also. By using these also, we will get the same result. Okay, so this is the first method of removing the permanent hardness. The second one is permitted process. Permitted process, also we call it as what? Geolytic process. Okay, so what is this geolite? So it is nothing but sodium. Geolite is nothing but sodium aluminum silane. Sodium aluminum silane. We call it as what? Geolite. This we can represent as either NaZ or Na2Al2Si2O8. That is Na2Z. We can represent with either NaAlSiO4 or Na2Al2Si2O8 also. These are the representation of geolite. Geolite is nothing but sodium aluminum silane. Okay, now how we can remove the permanent hardness by using these geolites? Okay, so I am representing this one, NaZ. So this Z indicates what? AlSiO4. So to this NaZ, if you add the water, means that water, hard water. In that water, what are the cations present? Ca plus 2 or Mg plus 2. Any one of the cations are present. Okay, after the addition of this geolite to this one, what happens? These all cations will go and replace what? Sodium. Okay, so that we are getting CaZ2. CaZ2. Why? Because sodium is what? Monovalent, but calcium, magnesium are bivalent. So like this, what happened? This geolite replacing sodiums, and in the place of sodium, all calcium and magnesium ions are coming. That means it is removing all cations. If it removes all cations, then there was no their corresponding salts. Okay, by removing the cations, they are removing the hardness of the odd water. And after once the geolite have been exhausted, again we can get back into the normal. So by treating with what? NaCl solution. Just to pass the NaCl solution into the exhausted geolite, again it will be, we can use. Again it will come out as what? NaZ. Okay, so the exhausted geolite can be again revived by treating with NaCl solution. Okay, so this is what? Permitted process, also called geolytic process, also called ion exchange process. Okay, next third process, that is what? Synthetic resin process. Synthetic resin process. Okay, so in this process we are using a special organic species, that is what the compounds having organic compounds having acidic functional groups, acidic functional group like SO3H, acidic functional group, and a basic functional group, that is what NH4OH. Okay, so this is the acidic functional group containing resins, and these are the basic functional group containing resins. Okay, now this acidic functional group containing resins, to this we are adding hard water. Okay, so what is the role of this resins? What happened? This acidic functional group containing resins will replace which ions? Cations. It will replace the cations. So that is RSO3. Okay, in the place of H plus, now what will come? Calcium magnesium ions will come. So twice calcium or magnesium, and it will come out as, and it releases which ions into the solution? H plus ions into the solution. So after we remove the cations, okay, this resins releasing which ions? H plus ions. So the solution becomes what? Acidic. So if you use the acidic functional group containing resins, are simply called cation exchange resins. If you use the cation exchange resins, the resulting solution is in which medium? Acidic media. Suppose if you use the anion exchange resins, or basic functional group containing resins, what they do? To this, if you add water, in water what are the anions present? Either sulfate ions or chloride ions. Okay, these anions will go and replace OH minus ions. So let us consider chlorine, that is NH4Cl will come, and it releases which ions into the solution? OH minus ions. If it releases the OH minus ions, what happened? The resulting solution? Basic. So if you use basic functional group containing resins, okay, then the resulting solution becoming what? Basic in nature. pH value will increases. So there was a drawback with these resin methods. That is why we won't follow this method. Either it may be becomes acidic or basic after the removal of this one. Okay, next, fourth one, the last one, Calgon method. Calgon method. Yes, what is a Calgon? Calgon is nothing but sodium hexametaphosphate. Sodium hexametaphosphate, that means Na6. Okay, metaphosphate hexa means HPO3 6. Okay, Na6 HPO3 6. This also we can write it as Na6, sorry, PO3. Na6 PO3 6. So Na6 P6O18. Na6 P6O18 we call it as what? Calgon. Sodium hexametaphosphate we call it as what? Calgon. Okay, now what happens? This Calgon, before that Na6 P6O18 will come out as what? It releases 2 Na plus ions, and it becomes what? Na4 P6O18 minus 2 charge. Okay. Na4 P6O18 minus 2. Why? Because it releases 2 Na plus ions. Okay, now this Na4 P6O18, when it reacts with M plus 2 ions which are present in hot water. What are the M plus 2 ions? Calcium ions or magnesium ions. Okay, so present in water. They react with M plus 2 ions present in the water, and it will go and replace how many sodium ions? 2 sodium ions. So it becomes what? Na2 M P6O18 minus 2. Like this, it removes all the cations present in the hot water. So this Calgon method also removing the hardness of hot water by removing which ions? Cations only. Okay, so and this is what exhausted Calgon. Again, this exhausted Calgon can be revived by treating with NaCl. If you treat this with NaCl, now this NaCl sodium ions will go on removes the metal ions, and it becomes what? Na4 P6O18 minus 2. Like this, the exhausted Calgon also can be revived by treatment with sodium chloride solution. So these are the methods of removing both temporary hardness and permanent hardness. Okay.